Hello again and welcome to day 22 of Unveiling the Civility Advent Calendar with Buki Odishote 2019 series. And thank you once again for always being there. It has really and truly been a journey so far. 22 days? Wow, what an experience. I have learned so much having to recap the book back to you and sort of summarize what I've read in time past, and of course having to share with you. And I believe that you have also taken quite a lot from this experience as well. Okay, like I said, for the benefit of those who are just watching for the very first time, we started this on the 1st of December and we're fast approaching the end of it. And I said at the beginning that we were going to be going through a book, and I was going to take the nuggets this year from a book by Dr. P.M. Foney, and we've been talking about the 25 rules of considerate conduct, and we're on day 22, rule 22. All right, so let's see what rule 22 has to say. I must say, I think I need to warn you ahead. This is a very, very interesting one. So keep alert and listen. All right, so rule 22 says, refrain from idle complaints. Does that ring a bell? Refrain from idle complaints. Okay, I have got two quotes here, and those two quotes are very, very apt. It doesn't need explaining, but of course, I'm sure you take something from that as well. If you always remember that anytime you want to engage in any form of idle complaint. Now, the first one is by Anne Frank, which says, then I do not think of all the misery, but of the glory that remains. Then I do not think of all the mystery, but of the glory that remains. And the next one is a Chinese proverb which says, don't cause the darkness, light a candle. So why not light a candle in any dark situation? That's what today is all about. So here Dr. Foney is saying, is not saying to you not to complain when you have to, especially when you know that your complaints is going to bring back good response or results as a result of your complaining. So for instance, if you've gone to an hotel and you have not been received well, of course you know that other people might visit the hotel. Your complaints or your feedback to them is something that would help others in future. 1, 2 is also going to make you feel better because of course you have paid for this experience and you haven't gotten what you paid for. So letting them know that they have fallen short of your expectation is very important, not just for you, but for other people as well. But he said, aside from things like this, we need to restrain ourselves from complaining. There are key things that he has said here. It's talked about the essence of having to be positive. It said, sometimes you don't realize that when you go about complaining, what you do is that you shift your burden of whatever it is that you're complaining about on other people, and in the process, you bring misery to them because they're sitting down there having to listen to your moaning and complaints about how the world has issues, about how, it could be your health, it could be anything at all. It could just be the fact that you're not happy with the school your children are in because of the way they're responding to the children. It could just be the fact that you're not happy with your workplace because of the way or the character of the people there. But what he's saying to us in essence is this. Rather than sit down there and complain, why don't you look for how to solve the problem? Always look for solutions as opposed to having to sit down to complain. It mentioned here as well, I'll read this out to you. It says, anytime you feel like complaining, it says, stop, think. And then it says, you need to understand the power of underestimating your influence, how you can influence your life, and not just only your life, but the life of others. So when you start complaining, what you're doing is you're underestimating the power that you hold to change around the situation for yourself, and not just yourself alone, but the other people that surround you. He also said here that it's very important that you keep the serene, the tranquil environment that you find and not pollute it with your complaints. He's also encouraged us here that if you find yourself in a place where you are constantly complaining, why don't you itemize those things that you're complaining about? Because one thing he mentioned, which I believe we should all know, but if we don't, is just something to remind us today, or to tell you for the very first time, that life will always produce mysteries sometimes, because life, that's what life is all about. Life is all about goods, ups and downs. So things will always happen, and that cannot change. But what can change is your reaction to life. How do you take that? So he said, in order to make a difference, and I would encourage each and every one of us to start doing this. We're starting a new year very soon. And in order to maintain the joy that we alone can create for ourselves, and we've got the power because we own it, we owe it, I beg your pardon, to ourselves, is to do what? Why don't you itemize those things that make you complain? And then one after the other, every month, take each one and decide that you're going to work on it, and look for how you're going to positively change that thing around. Anything that can be positive in that situation, look for it and start working towards it, and you will see the changes that you will get. There's one other thing he said here, which is a quote, I believe, by Ralph Waldo Emerson, which says, to hold your peace and not pollute the morning, to which all the housemates bring serene and pleasant thoughts by corruption and groans. So hold your peace. Don't pollute the waters. Don't pollute the air for other people. Think about how you can change the situation. And of course, he now talked about the workplace. So you might find yourself in a workplace where you feel the environment is polluted. Guess what? You're not going to add to what is already existing, because an unhappy employee is going to pass it on to the customers. And of course, for the employers as well. In order to have a happy customer, you need to ensure that your employees are happy. Wages are paid. They have an environment where they can thrive. There is unity amongst the staff. There is care. There is love. And there is, of course, civil understanding of how to relate with one another and maintain a good relationship. People who don't have that in place, people who are constantly open to harassment, open to lack of sufficient wages, where their expectations and their needs are not met, are not going to deliver. And that's definitely going to impact on even the clients, your customers. So why don't we start to make that change as we approach a new year? Start to embrace civility as an individual. And don't forget, civility is not something that is done by one person. To be civil is something that has to be done uniquely, jointly by the whole entity. But guess what? It starts with each individual. If I make up my mind, I'm going to make that difference, you're going to see the difference in your organization, and you will be amazed what you can produce and what increase you're going to have, even with your customer service and your customer feedback and ratings. I really look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. It's bye from me, and I hope you got some nuggets from tonight. Have a wonderful evening, a good night rest, and take care. Buki Odushote. Remain civil.